Hey guys, so today's video is going to be about pros and cons of being a landlord, owning rental properties, and my personal experience. And this stems from the fact that over the last, I want to say 6-7 months, my rental properties, I have 3, have been doing the most. Actually, not all of them, just one of them. My second rental property has been doing the most, and I literally found myself in credit card debt because I ran out of my emergency fund that I had saved for my rental properties, and I started using credit cards because I didn't want to use my personal emergency fund to pay for a lot of things that started happening with the second rental property. So today's video, we're going to talk about the money aspects of it, like how much I have spent over the last 3 years on rental, miscellaneous expenses related to rental properties, but also the pros and cons of being a landlord. So that is what today's video will be about. So if this is of interest to you, then please continue watching, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and let's get in today's video. So hi, welcome. My name is Miranda, and on this channel I share everything personal finance. I cover budgeting, saving, and investing. If these topics are of interest to you, then please hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and let's get into today's video. So I have my trusted laptop here because I wanted to see the last time that I actually shared a rental property video on the channel, and that was back in October of 2023, where I talked about how much I made from 3 rental properties. I'll leave that linked above and in the cards below. And then I talked about equity release prior to that and all of that good jazz. I have talked about the process of buying the rental properties and just how much it cost me for each one of them. So my first one was back in 2021, and it's a 1-bed. I think all of my rental properties are 1-bed properties. Yeah, all of them are 1-bed properties, and each rents for a different amount. I'm trying to get them all to the same amount, but at the moment they're renting at different amounts anyway. So for the first segment of the video, we're going to talk about the debt that I am now in, credit card debt that I'm in thanks to my rental properties. So all of those costs that I have incurred since I became a landlord. Now this debt only came about, like I said, in the last 6 months. And then the next segment, I have my trusted iPad here where I have written things down. I'm gonna try and talk about the pros and cons of being a landlord. So let's get into it. So like I said, I have 3 rental properties. Rental property number 1 I bought back in 2021 in July. It seems like a theme for me for all my properties to close between July and August, because rental 1 and rental 2 both closed in July. Rental 3 almost closed in July, but there was some delay on the other side, so it closed in August. But all of them, it was around the summertime when they closed. So July 2021 for rental 1, July 2022 for rental 2, and then August for rental number 3. So for rental number 1, when it comes to costs, there haven't really been a lot of them. So when I bought the property, it didn't come with a washing machine, so I had to buy a washing machine, and I ended up buying it myself, which was my first mistake, and that was £400. That included delivery up to the flat. And then when I bought that, it got delivered, came to find that it couldn't be installed because, well, your girl bought a larger, so the kitchen unit that I had only had appliances which were slim fit appliances, so the one I bought was too big for the slot there. So that cost me a pretty penny. I think it cost me, I want to say, £150. So they had to extend my where it would fit in. So thankfully it was close to it was under the sink, so it was easy to move that cupboard a little bit, but in any case that cost me money, so I had to pay for that. Then I had to pay for the EICR, then I had to pay for I think gas installation or something, and then inventory as well. So in total, that rental property in its entirety has cost me 800, over 870, almost 875 since I've owned that property, which is not bad because I've owned it since 2021, and I think that really is not bad at all. If I look at the cost, so when I got the rental property, it initially rented for 850, so technically only 1 month's worth of rent was lost to this. If I was to equate it in money, that's all I lost, so that is fine by me, but it rents for a little bit more than that right now. But yes, so that was for rental property number 1. Then we're not gonna go to rental property number 2 because that one was a whole mess. So let's go to rental property number 3, and thankfully for that one I have really not had much going on there. I think the only thing I had to do for rental 3 was the fence and the boiler checks. Yes, so the fence cost me about 450. So the fence that I share with my neighbor collapsed during a storm and it was old, so it needed to be replaced anyway, so that cost me about 450, and then some checks that needed to be done, gas checks and all of that, before I got insurance for the property. That cost me a pretty penny. So in total about £700 is how much this rental property has cost me, and I got it last year August, like I said. So £700. This rental property rents for £950, so less than a month's worth of rent was sent to repairs, if I can put it that way. So not bad at all for this rental property, and I'm thankful for it, because outside of the fence it has really not needed anything. Touch wood, it stays that way. The second rental property, this is where shit hits the fan, and this is where all the costs that made me question whether it was the right decision to buy this property or not came from. So rental property number 2, I had to repair the shower. That was about £50. Then I had to gutter the bathroom, so that was the recent payment that I made, which was 3,500. Actually no, in total it was £4,000, but I paid it in 2 small deposit and then the actual amount, so over £3,000, sorry, over £4,000. Then inventory from when last tenant moved in, left, the last tenant left, I did an inventory, so that cost me $120. When the new tenant was moving in, we did another inventory, that's another $120. And then setup fee, because I was moving in from one agency to my current management company, and that cost me £1,000. So everything, I just decided to just put it as setup, £1,000, even though I think setup itself is technically 400, but when we include reference, we include all of this ABCD, it all came up to £1,000. I needed to buy a fridge because the one that was there before was a dead-all, so bought a fridge for just under £200. Had to buy a washing machine because the one that was there just kaput like a month after the new tenants moved in, so that was for £300. I had to do electricals, £80. Then I had to do other miscellaneous things that ended up costing me almost £2,000. Then the bathroom fan needed to be replaced, that was another £300. So let's just say in total for rental property number 2, and I've only owned it for 2 years, I have spent just under 7,500 in terms of repairs, and all of this is between November of 2023 and May of 2024. So 7,500 in that period, and we still have one more bill to come through because water is leaking into the flat below, so we need to fix that so it doesn't continue. And once we fix that, we need to wait for downstairs ceiling to dry and then paint that, so that's another cost that I am anticipating. yeah, so that is where the debt came from. But in total, I have spent, since becoming a landlord in 2021, I have spent about £10,000 in total for repairs, miscellaneous things, all of that good jazz for my rental properties. Do I regret buying these rental properties? Not really, because for me it's a long-term thing. It's an investment that I made, and not sure if I'll retire on that. This is why I have investments in the stock market, but it's good to have this consistent income. What I love about my rental properties is I call them sufficient self-funding rental properties, because the rent that I get from these 3 rental properties is enough for me to pay the mortgages, the insurances that come with these properties, and make a little bit of a profit. So I am going to do an updated video of how much I make from 3 rental properties. I was going to do it after I got the 4th rental property, but I'll still do it because I think the last one that I shared in October last year was too close to me closing on the 3rd rental property. I only closed in August. My first full rent wasn't until September, so I didn't really have, I only had 1 month's worth of data to share in that video. So I think I would do an updated one just to see like how much I've actually made year on. So I think I'm gonna do it sometime in August or in September, just to get that full year cycle on the 3rd rental property. But that's how much it has cost me. About £10,000 in terms of repairs and all of that good jazz. So like I said, each rental property rents for something different. So rental property number 1 is about £1,000, rental number 2 is £1,000, and rental number 3 is just under £1,000. So they do make me money for sure, not a lot, because like rental property number 3 has quite a high mortgage because I got it during high interest. I think my interest was 5.4% for that one, so the mortgage amount is quite high. The first one is also a little bit high, even though I got it when interest rates were quite low, and then the second one surprisingly is very low. But that 2-year fix is over, you guys. It will be over in July. Yeah, so now we're going to be contending with the current interest rates, whatever they are right now. I need to speak to my mortgage advisor about that, and you know, see if we can find a good rate that I can lock myself in for either another 2 years or 5 years, depending on like the mortgage amount. But that is the first part of it. The second part of it is pros and cons. Let me start with the pros, because you know we are on a high. The pros is obviously I get to make money from these rental properties. Secondly, I get to provide people with somewhere to stay, and because I rented for over 10 years and I had some of the worst landlords to some of the best landlords, I knew for a fact that I wanted to be on the best frame, like best landlord side of things, because we had so many landlords when I was in uni, after I left uni, who did not care about the state of the house. They cared about their rent, that they were rental income. That was it. And that really pissed me off, like really pissed me off, especially if I think back to my first rental, my first property that I rented with my friends. We had some things that really needed to be fixed, and literally there was just, it was a whole mess. We really did not like our landlord, and then the estate agent that they were using, the lady who helped us get the property ran away with some of the money. It was a whole mess, you guys. I don't even know how it happened, but this was back in 2009, 2010. It was a whole mess. So yeah, I have had those landlords who were just like in for the money, and I didn't want to be that. I want any rental property that I own to be like my home. Like when I was buying my first rental property, I remember saying to the agent that I look for properties where I can see myself living in them. If I cannot, I will not buy it. And I know this probably limits me because there are some rental properties that are run down that I probably could invest in, bringing it up, making it all brand new and rent it for a little bit higher. Personally, I like rental properties that are ready for people to move in. Like, I want to do minimal work. I don't want to paint. I want to change the curtains. That's all I want to do. I don't want to paint. I don't want to gutter nothing, because knowing me, I will hire people. Okay, I will hire someone to do it. And obviously in times of when you're trying to save money, that's not really the ideal strategy. But I just don't want a place where I have to do a lot of work. If I have the capital available to do the work, then sure, I might go for that place, but probably not. But yeah, so pros for me is rental income, providing somewhere to live, and growing the value. With the growth of the property market, I am building a nest egg, and even if I don't get to use that, I do have 2 adorable niece and nephew that my intention is to leave that in a trust for them to inherit. I want to pass this generational wealth down to my future kids, as well as my niece and my nephews. So that is my plan. Those are the pros. The cons are these, which the first one I want to say is there's way too many costs involved. Now, this is both a pro and a con, in that when I was renting, oh my gosh, there were so many things that you had to pay for as a tenant that the landlords pushed on you, or the agents pushed on you. Admin fee, visiting fee, whatever fee. Like, there were so many fees that sometimes you just be like, I thought the rent was like £200. Why am I paying £350? All of these, a referencing fee, inventory fee, all of these were costs that were borne by the tenant. I am happy that things have changed and have moved on. As a landlord, I am happy to pay for any additional fees. Like referencing with my management company, I pay for that, and it's important I pay for that. Inventory of the place, I pay for that, and both me and my tenant get the list of the inventory before it's finalized and signed, so that the tenant can go into the house and see of what has been found. Like, this inventory is not just like, oh, she has an IKEA bookcase or anything like that. No, it's, are there cracks in the house that the tenant caused or were there already, and is there any damage? Because wear and tear is natural, but there are certain things that may have broken across the tenancy and what have you, and the tenant can go around and say, yes, this is me. They can refute certain things because it does affect their deposit and all of that. So I like having that report. They look at it, they say yes or no, and we discuss it and all of that good jazz. So, but there are a lot of fees. Secondly, you never know who you get as a tenant, and second rental property is really teaching me a lot of things, but I've been very specific about who I rent to. But sometimes you just never know, right? So you never really know who you are renting to. Sometimes you could be giving somebody a home and they treasure it, and sometimes you think you're giving someone a home and then they trash it. So you never really know what you get. I can't think of any other cons, to be honest. I think I did 2 pros and 2 cons. I think that's enough. What do you think? But please let me know in the comments if you are a landlord yourself and some of the cons, the pros and cons that you've experienced as a landlord. But if I'm to be 100% honest with you guys, outside of the last 6 months, everything has been swimmingly great since I became a landlord. Like, I rarely get any phone calls from my management company to tell me, oh, ABCD, except for the last 6 months. I think over the last 6 months I've gotten more calls from the management company than I have had in the last 3 years of being a landlord. But other than that, it's been great. I love being a landlord. I love being able to provide somebody with a home. And as much as people tell me that obviously this is a business, which it is, I still put the human element first. I do this in my work, in my personal life, and with my rental properties. Human element first. I don't increase my rent just because. I see some of the management companies, like one I'm trying to get away from, whose contract stipulates that every year the rent will go up by like 3.5% or what have you. Honestly, I'm not on board with that. I look at the state of the world, and I would rather have a loyal tenant than lose out just because I'm trying to get more money for rent. That's not my strategy. I'm trying to build long-term relationships with my tenants. Obviously they don't know who I am, because I make a point of that. I don't want my tenants to know who I am or to have my personal number. This is why I use a management company, so they manage everything, because the type of lifestyle we lead, we are rarely home, and I wouldn't want to be abroad and to hear that something is broken and needs to be fixed urgently and I can't do anything about it. So I don't want that. This is why I have a management company. They provide 24-hour service for my tenants. If there's any issues, there's an online system. I stay on top of all of this. I follow up on all issues with the agency and not the tenants, and you know, it just works out well for me. So yeah, I think that is it. That's all I wanted to share in today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys in my next video.